So folks, good evening.
Good evening.
This public hearing is called to order on June 5th, 2025 at 6:34 p.m. at the CB 14 District Office at 810 East 16th Street in Brooklyn. So the purpose of this hearing is to hear public testimony with respect to an application for a sidewalk cafe under DOT's Dining Out NYC program. The applicant is Madeline Incorporated, doing business as Pasture Burgers, located at 1611 Cortelli Road. The applicant is represented here today by Andy Jean-Jacques from Restaurateur Consulting. Did I say your name right?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Steve. And so the Community Board 14 office, we received notification on May 12th, 2025, and the Department of Transportation allows 40 days should the board wish to express an opinion to the department. So if any members of the public wish to testify on this issue, please register for time by signing up at the back table with Sarah. Please state clearly for the record your name, whether you are a Community District 14 resident or the organization you represent if applicable. So the first speaker will be Mr. Andy Jean-Jacques. And Andy, you can just like stand right here because the mics will pick you up. Sure. So watch your step. Sure. No problem. Thank you very much.
How's everybody doing?
Good
Afternoon. My name is Andy Jean-Jacques. I'm a former New York City Department of Health Inspector, and I currently work with several restaurants throughout the 5 boroughs, representing them, whether it's doing sidewalk cafes, applications, or representing them where I'm just applying for new permits for them and supporting them in the way that they need. So as, I'm sorry, okay.
I'm Carl.
As Carl mentioned, I'm here to represent Pasture Burger, located on 1611 Cortelli Road. We applied for a sidewalk cafe license. The establishment has been open for several years now. It's well known on Cortelli Road. So the purpose of this is to, of course, enhance the vibrant community that's on Cortelli Road and support it in any way I can.
Thank you so much for that. And so, do board members have any questions?
Is there anything on the application we should be looking at?
Yeah.
That's just the,
Yes, I am.
there's a little schematic.
Yes, it's like magical. It's a very small space that we're requesting to have a small table, 2 chairs. And that's really it.
One table?
In the schematic, yes, there's 1 table. We might put 2 because there's enough space for 2.
Mhm.
But right now, it's just a very small space. We want to be far enough from the tree bed. So that's why we're keeping it respective distance that the DOT requires from the tree bed. So that's why we just want that small and very tight.
Okay. Thank you. You have a question?
Yes,
Yes.
hi, how are you? My name's Kirsty, and I have a couple of questions. No problem with the proposal. It's just a couple of clarifying things about the drawing and stuff. Let's see, I wrote some notes. So, and this is the first sidewalk application I've been involved reviewing, but I have a lot of experience reviewing site plans and stuff. So, so the area for the table is, it's 3 feet measured. It looks like the short dimension comes out from the wall of the restaurant. Like this, where it says 7 feet,
Yeah.
that's confusing.
So the gentleman that processed from DOC that's processing the application,
Yeah.
he revised it. I think he made a mistake on it. So I'm gonna reach out to him. The 7 feet out doesn't make sense. It should be 3 feet by 7 feet.
Okay, that really helps me understand, because I know this is the application process. I've been through some changes recently, and you're telling me some nuts and bolts about how these things are produced. So you're agreeing, or you're agreeing with what I saw, which is it should be 3 by 7, not 7 by 3. Cool. And then the 9 feet is telling us that where the table is at least 9 feet from that tree.
That tree bed,
Right.
which allows the passageway for pedestrians.
So that's for pedestrians, because on the left, it says the sidewalk is a big, wide sidewalk, 18.5 feet. So I have no concern. There's plenty of room there. So then the next thing is inside that 3 by 7 on the right is what I believe is a sidewalk hatch.
It's a cellar door.
That's what it's called. Yeah. And so I there's some rules about not putting a table on top of that. So you're not showing the table on top of
Yeah,
that.
we're not sure what's on top of that. The owner of the establishment didn't feel like it was necessary to put tables on there because it's a very small space.
Yeah,
And to get a table on there, we have to get a engineer's approval. And that's too much, so
keep it
keep
simple.
it simple, yeah.
All right, so one thing, I was looking at the checklist and there's we can't see the whole checklist right now, but there is a box checked that suggests you're gonna put like a low wall around.
Do you mean the checklist right there?
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, there has to be
So,
a barrier around where sitting space will be.
so they're definitely gonna put one
Yeah,
in?
they're gonna put a barrier, so just something simple, it might be fences, I'm not sure exactly what kind of barriers. The DOT doesn't limit you to just one type, so it might be fences, it might be just a barricade,
Yeah,
so we're still examining that.
okay, so I was wondering why that's not shown on the drawing as well.
Yeah, the DOT doesn't require us to put, the barrier, we do have the line,
Yes,
which represents a barrier, but not specifically what type of barrier has been disclosed.
Okay.
all right, that's clear. So I'm learning that this is the way people do this. Okay, so, those are my main things. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of room for pedestrians. I get, big picture, main point, totally clear. The 3x7 you explained, and I noticed the photos, I'm told the photos that come with the application are from previous years. Thanks. And so, I'm like, wait a minute, there's two tables in the photo, but people say, no worries. That's just a picture of conditions a couple of years ago. We're
Not
not-
everybody was allowed to do whatever they wanted.
Yeah, during COVID, there weren't any restrictions to how you could set up tables,
Okay,
so.
as long as it's within this area.
Yeah, I sort of wonder about this in the process, that it's like, I don't even know if DOT should be asking them to do the old photos, but, because it's caused confusion for the board here a few times, but that's the story.
Okay, so I'll just always remember that when I'm looking at these. Well, you've answered all my questions. I thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, I have no issues with the application. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So, yes.
Hi, how are you?
How you doing?
Is the barrier a movable barrier or something they're gonna be putting up permanently?
Oh, no, nothing could be, fixed in the ground. Everything has to be able to be moved at any time.
Okay, and is the plan to leave it there overnight, or is it something, are they gonna bring it each day, or is it just gonna sit out there? And
They
then,
plan on bringing it each day because they do want to keep everything very light. The tables, they did, according to the city, either you chain or use some type of
Right.
string or rope to keep tables from being taken or thrown out. But, we just gonna, it's a simple setup, so it's gonna be inside every night, bring it in, bring it out.
and with regards to the 3 feet, I mean, based on your application, the table's gonna be up against the barrier. There's 2 chairs, one on each side of the table, right? I'm assuming to get to the second chair, either a person has to go around the barrier on the sidewalk and traverse over the cellar door, or to go on the inside of the table. Is that going to be enough space? Because that's really all.
No, there's only one entrance. It can be a closed barrier.
Right.
There has to be a space where, once you come out of the establishment, you
Okay,
make a left, there has to be a space that's open, at least for minimum size for a wood fit to go through.
right. So my question, how do you get to the second chair? They're both behind the barrier according to your diagram.
May I?
Yeah,
Okay, sure.
can we go back to the diagram for a second? Sure.
Because the
That's-
diagram is not what the exact representation would be.
Right, so I'm using the diagram, trying to point to exactly what you're expecting to put there, okay? If possible.
Okay,
very-
so this is, I don't know if you can see, but this is the open space here.
Right,
So coming out of the establishment, you walk along the windows. One person will sit here and the next person
so
will.
that's my question on your sizing, right? Because you said that the sizing was incorrect, it should really be 3 feet that way and 7 feet that way.
Yeah.
I don't see how 3 feet would be enough to create that open space plus the table. So I think that he's not wrong, maybe he has the 3 feet wide wrong. Maybe it's wider than 3 feet, maybe it's a 7 by 7, but 7 plus 9 is 16 to the tree bed with an entire sidewalk of 18 and a half. That makes sense, the
Right.
7. So when you suggested that he had the numbers wrong, flip them, I think the 7 feet is correct. It's a question if the 3 feet wide is accurate. But, which doesn't make a difference to me. If it's wider than 3 feet, I couldn't care, I wouldn't care. It's just as long as there's enough space to walk in there. So if the application is truly 7 feet deep from the establishment, and there's 9 feet of actual sidewalk, I'm fine, because it meets the DOT requirements for less than half anyway. So I just wanted to clarify if that was the case. 3 feet certainly is not correct.
You make a great point. This particular line right here may not exist, so the barrier could just be two lines.
Got it, okay. But it seems like it's 7 feet depth.
Yeah, it does make
At
sense.
least more than.
Yeah, more than 3.
It's gotta be more than 3 feet.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna definitely get.
Make sure it's clarified.
Okay.
Okay. Any additional questions? Martin? Yeah.
Sean, what's the history of the establishment? Any of?
There's no history of the establishment in terms of this office's experience, no complaints, no
Great,
issues.
that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Any other questions from any other board members? Do you have-
I do, but before there's any determination made that, for the record, everybody should introduce.
Oh, shoot, that's true.
One question.
Sure. So before I do that, I forgot the order of operations. I did not go around the room and have everyone introduce themselves. I got so excited. So let me,
What about the moment of silence for the Knicks?
well, that's, I mean, that'll be it.
Wow.
My heart hurts, Barton. My heart hurts and I couldn't think. That's it. And so I am chairperson Carl Henry Cesar. I go by Carl, and yes, I am mourning the Knicks. And I turn to my next.
We don't all have to share our.
As our allegiance to the other team?
No, I just said, yeah, you second vice chair.
Vice Chair. Second Vice Chair. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Ornella Parker, third vice chair.
Hi, Florencia China.
Secretary.
Oh, Secretary.
My name is Eric Ost, first vice chair.
Mordecai Zarski, board member, and no, I gave up organized sports like 17 years ago for that exact reason.
Okay.
I'm Brittany Ford, new board member as of this year.
Asma Nessie, new board member as of this year as well.
Nina Sab, peer board member, and if it isn't ice hockey, it doesn't count.
Barton Prasad, board member, and I'm cheering for the Pacers.
Oh,
Tonight.
Oh, this man. Okay.
It's a long story. Some other days.
I'm Alex Lessman.
Is everyone's-
Melissa Minnick, board member. No.
Kirsty Utila, politics is my sport. Remember.
Where is that tip on that?
There it is. You're like, yep.
Sean Campbell, District Manager, Community Board 14, and we're joined by Sarah Sklar, Community Coordinator.
Excellent. So folks, thank you very much for introductions. And yes, we also have Andre Jean-Jacques here with me. Andy, my bad, excuse me. Andy Jean-Jacques here representing the applicant, so thank you. And so now that we have the introductions and District Manager Campbell, thank you for reminding me of that. You had a question, right?
Yeah, one question, nothing serious, but why is it that the sign is upside down?
Sign?
Yeah, you have a sign by the thing, it said Madeline,
Oh,
but it's upside down.
it's part of the design.
this is a very good question. The owner was inspired by another cafe in New York.
Oh, okay.
And you can see the sister business, which is 2 doors down, which is Vatican Cafe.
Yeah.
Has the same look.
Yeah.
So he was inspired by a cafe he saw in Belgium, I think.
Mhm.
And he continued that.
But if you're on the
I mean,
roof of the
that was
building
just my
looking down.
curiosity.
It makes, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's fine.
If you think about it,
They do speak French in Belgium, and Cortelio is a French name, so it all makes sense.
We take what we got.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you for
No, definitely strong matches. Thank you, thanks.
There.
And so hearing,
You reminded. You did.
so hearing no other questions from board members, do I have a motion to approve the recommendation for Madeline doing business as Pasture Burgers for their sidewalk cafe?
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, great. And so, all right, any opposed to this recommendation? Okay, is anyone abstaining from the recommendation? Is anyone ineligible? Okay, so seeing
We've all
none.
eaten there, so. we all- Sorry.
That's good. And so Andy, what this means is, so the recommendation that you heard for this public hearing is that the committee board is in support of it, but that's not the final piece because we have our general board meeting on Monday. And so at our general board meeting, one of my responsibilities is to report out that this was our recommendation. And then we as a board will vote on that recommendation. And then the outcome of that vote, that is what we will then send to the Department of Transportation. So that's the deal. And so what this means is, for the purposes of this public hearing, this is done. We have another committee meeting, and so if you'd like to stay out of interest, you can, but for your purposes, you're done, and you're free to get home before like game one starts.
I mean, so I go.
Thank
Thanks very
you
much.
very much, Andy. I appreciate it.
Sorry, but I grew up around here. I used to pass by there. I didn't know.
Hey,
Stop and
hey,
say
you know,
hi.
if you can come to, we have our general board meeting on Monday at East Midwood Jewish Center at 7 p.m. And then if you go to our website, we post the whole calendar. So now that you know about us, come to our meeting.
Don't be a stranger.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right.
Do you want to move up or are you good there?
I don't think I'm good here.
Oh.
I've made myself comfortable.
I don't mind doing Deborah's side.
I might need to move to the other side.
Take that under advisement. That's the word, under advisement. That's
All right.
Bye, Barton.
Guess how you
He's
hear
a
about
vicious fan. I gotta talk with him later.
No, you don't talk about
No, no, no.
Take it, and then you.
Hey, man.
I'm gonna ignore you.
That's my job.
All right, y'all. We're gonna move into the second part of today, which is the ad hoc transition committee meeting. So this meeting is now gonna begin at 6:51 p.m. Ooh, we ahead of time, y'all. We might get out of here on time. Hopefully enough time to go catch the Pacers losing. So with that being said, there's 3 items on today's agenda. The first item is the composition of board and community, since we have now our new board members joining us. Then the second one is just outreach, recruitment, and public members thinking through how do we continue our outreach to make sure we continue the mission for this committee and the board in general, and the city and the charter and all that good stuff. And then the last is we're going to talk a little bit about board member handbook, and obviously I'll get into a little more details around each of those when we get to it. So we'll jump into tonight's first item. The first item is.
May I interrupt you? I'm so sorry to do that, but could we, just for the newer members, could we go back and just give context for why this?
I was just going to get into that because I have the mission.
Okay, sorry. And then.
No, you're good. Don't apologize.
I should have known you'd have it covered, but I just jumped into it.
So for those that are new, I made sure I emphasize ad hoc at the front of this committee. So we have standing committees. As you guys know, you're probably already selected the ones you want to be a part of. Hopefully, y'all filled that form out, right? All right. Was that a nod? Yeah.
Well, you got some.
Okay.
Some
All right. Yeah. All right. So ad hoc is those are not standing committees. They are created obviously by board decision when there is a specific mission or thing that we're trying to accomplish that is outside of our standing committees. So back last year, around springtime, the transition committee was created because prior to that, there were some changes in the charter from the borough president around term limits. And there were some thoughts around like, what is the impact that's gonna have on the board moving forward? Are we going to lose the knowledge of the people that's been on the board for years? Is that going to mean like a complete like new start of like when we get to 27, 28, a new start of boards and like losing some of the institutional knowledge we had, right? So I'm just going to read the original motion for the creation of the ad hoc committee so that you guys can ground yourselves in that, okay? The purpose of this committee would be to meet in May each year after the borough president's appointments to analyze the state of Community Board 14 with respect to how many members exist, who will be subject to term limits in 2027 and 2028, and report such to the chair. At this time, they will identify where the gaps of institutional knowledge may be. In the fall of each year, the committee will meet again to hold informal peer-to-peer oral history discussions to pass down institutional knowledge to ongoing conditions like Newport Plaza, Flatbush African Burial Ground, the 2006 down zone, up zone, MIH and MIH/ZQA. There's a lot of
That was before COI.
yeah, someone worked on it.
agencies using Q4.
Right, alphabet soup, but yes, obviously this doesn't encompass everything, but like those are some, so there's other things that we would discuss. But the benefit of this committee would include additional opportunities for new members to find leadership as co-chairs, provide a mechanism to formally retain legacy board members as public members if they're not reappointed, and to demonstrate this board takes the term limited transition seriously and are actively and independently managing the process internally. So that was the purpose of the creation of the board. A little bit more history of something that came out from last year is we did a survey of the entire board members just to see like the makeup of the board and the comparison of that to our district. Something that came from that when we compared the data last year was that we realized that there are some pockets across our board that does not represent our district makeup. So something, I think some of you might have heard this past meetings, but something we were actively also using this committee to do is to analyze where are those gaps, think of strategies for outreach to fill those gaps. And we've sent a letter to the borough president's office. When was that? That was earlier this year, right?
February 20th, 2025.
Maybe you'll be on it. February 20th, 2025, expressing where the gaps are, quoting the charter because the charter states that our community boards are supposed to represent our district, and sharing the outreach we've done in hopes that whatever applicants submitted applications, that they would take that into consideration of making sure that our board is representative of our district. So that's where we are now. Fast forward, our new members have been appointed. So we are at a place where now we're going to think through like redistributing the survey. Sean is doing some tweaking to make sure that the survey actually matches the census questions so that it's actually more comparable. So there were like a few questions that were a little finicky last time.
Yeah.
Kind of like the commuter ones were a big one, like
The transportation question wasn't super sharp. I think the question about country of origin was a little bit mushy.
Yeah. So just make it, obviously, every time it should get better. So just making sure that whatever data we're using to identify districts demographics, it can also be captured in our board's survey. So we are gonna make sure that survey goes out. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's going out tomorrow.
It can go out right away. Yeah. Yeah. It finally got completed today.
I know she's the best, like literally. But
No, let's be clear. It should have gone out before this meeting. So
well, I think it's good timing because we also something me and Sean was talking about is for the most part the board is pretty quick at responding to surveys. But
okay.
JK, but in regards to that, it actually is good timing because on Monday we're going to have our monthly board meeting at Midwood Jewish Center. So we can have some printed copies as well present so that we can capture anyone who has not completed the survey by that time. The goal is that most people have, so it's only should be a few. But the goal is that once we have that data, we can then do the comparison again, and then that would let us know, did we meet our goal of like closing some of the gaps? Where do gaps still persist? And start figuring out some like root causes and issues that are present that are why we still have some gaps across our representation of our district. I'm gonna pause there because that was a mouthful. Yes, I see a hand. Let's pause there. Any questions, thoughts before we move on?
Yes, just one quick question. When you talk about representation of it, do you mean like geographic, like throughout the CB14 map? Or racial, gender, socioeconomic, what specific, or all of the above?
I'm gonna name some from is the letter there that has it listed? Yeah, I have the data up, but it probably be easier. Okay, so we're underrepresented for African Americans, Caribbeans. We are also underrepresented for the Hispanic community, underrepresented for those that are foreign born, but we're gonna fix the language around that. Underrepresented for those that are renters. Also underrepresented for public transportation use. Again, the transportation questions were a little wonky too, but we'll clean those up. But those were like some of the main areas. Also, those that are aged under between 16 and 20 16 to 24, there's no representation of them on our board. So it goes across like the whole range.
I'd be so impressed if a 24-year-old joined the community.
The goal is, let's get creative on how we can make that happen, because technically they could, again, I was sharing my experience. I didn't even know my community board was a thing until I was like 30. And that is already how many years after the game, right?
Yeah.
So if we could think through some strategic ways of like starting to engage our youth so that they that group can be represented on the board, because think about it, if someone sits from when they're 24, what does that mean for like representation and like their input and their voices? Nina?
I just want to say, I think something that I've run into on past surveys, you know, particularly like the transportation question, was it seemed like kind of had to pick one, and many of us are multimodal, you know?
Yeah, that question, actually, the way it's measured in the data is usually, it's not about how you get around, generally speaking. The question in like Furman is car-free commute to work.
Yeah.
And we didn't freeze it that way.
Yeah.
So we're gonna copy the language of the reports that are used when they're doing this. And maybe that will make it a little bit more crisp and clear. I thought we had a line underneath everything so that you can go into more detail too. I'll make sure that's there.
Yeah.
Or anything.
Ms. Cotero, Ruth, how about using that?
Yeah, we have to think through, and I definitely think bringing this to the Youth Service Education and Libraries Committee is a good method. When we were thinking about this was specific to get like applications submitted. So we did some strategic things around like reaching out to groups that represent these different demographics, but we don't, again, I don't think right now we have anyone 16 to 24, right?
No, I mean, in the past, we tried to cultivate interest through a youth leadership council, remember the YLC? And we've tabled at different events and sent out emails to local high schools, you know, at the time that the applications are open. I think that's a good one to pick up, that direct school outreach, maybe.
Yeah.
Is the minimum age to 16? Can somebody at the age 16?
Yeah, I forget when that law passed, but a handful of years ago.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and to be honest, I think about the CSC as well. The students are also able to serve in that, and right now across the entire Brooklyn, not a single student serves on any of the CSCs. So there's a more systemic issue that's happening there around, what is that? The Council for Education, I said that wrong. CEC.
The CEC.
But CEC means different things.
Yes.
Yes, not the
civic
civic
engagement.
Not the civic engagement.
but
The deal.
Educational.
Education council or something?
Yes, Community Education Council. I said the council first, I'm like.
Yeah, but part of that, there's also like a civic engagement commission.
Right.
So
Yeah,
like,
I know.
depending who you talk to.
Stories.
Yeah, so
You know.
Got ADA compliance and ADA and American Dental Association.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's true.
Between that and CS, yeah, you're good. You locked.
But yeah, the Community Education Council is kind of like our version of the school boards. When we transition to mayoral control, each district has a has a CSC. It's represented by families, and then there's a borough appointee, a public advocate appointee, I think, and then they have to be parents, and if not, they're appointed as like they have interest in that community, but also a student is supposed to sit on that council.
Yeah, but it's true, that might be an easy bridge to build.
Yeah.
So, but to the point, I mean, we will keep trying with the groups that are underrepresented.
I did.
Yeah.
How is our representation based on math?
It's
Regions.
It's not great. I mean, there's a full quadrant of the district that has nobody. Yeah, I'd say the
At the floor?
south, the southwest quadrant of the district. So Midwood, so below the cut, and probably I would say west of west of that, but yeah.
We don't go much further west of Ocean Avenue.
Well, but between Ocean Avenue and Coney Island Avenue.
Oh, no, we don't go.
So that, you know, it would be good to sort of focus in on that area to see if we could, you know, whether there's.
South of where I live. I think I'm the south.
Yeah, you know what, I should put up the, we have a map where.
With the regions, right?
With the
Yes,
regions,
yes.
and it has like teardrop little markers where everybody lives, so we can get that to you and maybe put it up on our website.
Yeah, I think once we do the survey and we gather all the data. The goal, the anticipation is that sometime in fall that we'll meet again to share out that data and brainstorm of like where, again, like I said, where there's still gaps and what we're gonna do. The reason why we're waiting until then is because we're about to go into summer session, summer break, I should say. So we don't meet again as a board until back in September. So the goal is sometime in September, once we complete this, we have all the data, we'll circle back with the findings from that. And we'll make sure that we have the region map so we can see where also geography.
That's the reason why
Geographically.
I'm not officially part of the committee, but before I get term limited out, which is, arguable if this might be my first term because of something that happened last time.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Really, he's trouble.
He's not trouble. He's not trouble.
It's like, this might actually be my first term, even though it's my fifth term, right?
Yeah.
I kind of like that one. Let's try.
Because of city law and whatever. Anyway, they messed up. But before I get term limited out, my goal for me is to actually engage my community and people that live
Yes.
south. I mean, there's a whole block of thousands, underrepresented. And so my goal is to try and build representation and utilize what I've been able to accomplish as part of the board over the years. And there's the community relations, and get with the head of the FJCC and we'll.
I love that so much that you shared that because I do think that it's been proven like through research that people engage with stuff from actual connections with people. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think while we can send like mass communication out, which Sean did a great job. She like reached out to like groups that represented them, but I think we'll get the bigger bang for a buck by like us personally engaging with those communities. Especially if we are part like near or by those.
So the reason why I see that is because I ended up getting on the community board because David Greenfield asked me to, but more because, just before he transitioned out from his community city council seat, but more because Leo Kimmel was hiring in Florida. He was my neighbor right across the street, and I had a relationship with him. He was like, "You should take over my seat."
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not just cut out that. I think Dave Greenfield, said, "You're taking him." I didn't end up taking his seat, but as he was just after he retired, that I ended up, it was because of the conversation with him that helped me make my decision when that time.
So
So
I think we got Barton through Skip for going.
there was a continuity
Yes.
of people that people don't, like you said, I didn't understand what the community board, all I remember is my father saying, "Oh, you live near Leo Kimmel. He's on the community board." I was like, I had no clue what that meant. Apparently,
You're like, it
my
must be
father,
Leo
Leo Kimmel, was somebody like great. And I was like,
Leo Kimmel's mom is very proud.
I'm like, whatever. So I didn't understand what it meant until I got involved.
I'll take credit.
So I think that there's something to be said about us as community board members figuring out how to pass that torch on.
I think that's a great anecdote, and I think that will shape maybe when we talk in the fall some of the strategies that we use to engage more people in our communities.
Mhm. And they don't have to wait, right? They don't have to wait until the applications open up
Exactly.
at Borough Hall in February or whenever that is, because there are opportunities to serve as public members on each and every committee. And I can only imagine that would bode well for their application when the application time comes.
Yeah, well, and I would start, I think it's also an important thing that people know about the community board.
Before,
and know what we do,
yes.
not just all of a sudden, oh, hey, this application's open, it's due in 3 weeks. You should apply. So what is this thing?
Right, and I think
Throughout the year.
more information about the committees is really important
Yeah.
because that's a way of engaging people. If they have a particular interest in whatever it is, public safety or transportation or human services or whatever, to be able to say, oh, hey, that's something I'm really interested in,
Yeah, I agree.
And so, forget, appealing to young people, let them know that, that moving forward in terms of, say, college applications, if they're still in high school, moving on up in college and job applications and so forth, that's, that shows commitment, it shows a willingness to take responsibility, to be engaged and involved in this all the time. And that's a very big plus for them.
Yeah, I agree. The second, sub-bullet under like composition of the board is how we want this board to run. So originally, when the board was created, we were like kind of feathering between whether it will be a long-standing ad hoc and how and who, like how we operate it. So there are two options that we're considering, and I would like to like present it to you guys and hear like your thought process. The first is we could continue as ad hoc so that up until 2027, 2028 term out, and then reassess if we continue to need this ad hoc committee, or there is a place where this committee could be dissolved because it is ad hoc, and the responsibilities and the work, as we shared through the mission and kind of like background I just gave you, could be absorbed through another committee that's already present. And what we were thinking through is possibly the executive committee could take on some of this work. But I definitely wanted to engage you guys as board members first to hear your thought process to see what you guys think makes more sense.
I think like it's a great mentorship, right? That's what I'm hearing you. I think that first decision is or the way it's run would be better just for the new board members and they're brand new. And so first, I would love to have somebody who has served to help guide me, expectations. I mean, although I work in the community for several years now, I think it's just really brand new to me. And so a lot of the times I'm just like, even the first meeting I was quiet, I'm like, let me sit back, let me observe, went through the website and everything. But again, like that mentorship would be really nice. And dissolving it, I think will be lost more. Again, like many board members, the new board members are not able to come to all of the meetings tonight. I mean, it wasn't required for us, but I came, let me expose myself. Let me see what a public hearing looks like because I've never attended one. And so like, again, a mentor would be really nice.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, obviously, I'm not on the executive committee, but I do know that they do a lot, right? And I think that the question is why there is going to be a transition every year. Because there's half the board members that are even years and odd years. It would seem to me that it should be more like a permanent type of committee that they don't have to give the monthly updates because it's not every year. It's not, it should be twice a year, like, maybe twice a year, an update at the board meeting. Like I said, once in May or once in November, just what's going on in the transition of hey, these are the transitioning members that came in, new members, welcome the new members, introduce them to the board, right, at that meeting, at that first meeting after transition. And then in November time, prepare board members saying, hey, it's time for applications. If you're an exiting board member, the transition committee would like to engage with you and people in your community to help find your replacement. Things that that as a committee can be created, and it's no longer ad hoc, it's an actual function within the board that creates that continuity.
Sean, correct me if I'm wrong as well. If we do a permanent committee, it would have to meet minimum based on the bylaws 3 times a year.
Yeah, I think it would have to create an standing committee, you need a bylaws revision, which is not too heavy of a lift necessarily. And then I think, now that you asked it, I know I said this before, the standing committees have to meet at minimum 3 times a year, so it adds that. But I don't know, it could be, if we're adding it to the bylaws,
then you make a provision
yeah.
Because it's not the standard type of committee.
But, Morty, the reason why it was a transition committee and it was ad hoc was the idea was that there wasn't going to be as much turnover in these past 3 years as there has been. And the concern was that 2027, the first year of term limits, we're going to have this sort of like avalanche of knowledge leave and people. So the fact that we've had more turnover in the past few years and that we've got a more of a balance between legacy members, established members and newer members, I think that concern isn't as big, but because the work has been kind of quality work, that's where I think you're speaking to the idea, like we could kick this, and Asma's point too, like we could just carry it on because it feels like it sort of would take over that board member orientation.
Yeah.
I was gonna echo that point as well. And I feel like it gives it its own spot on the calendar. If you move it into executive committee, it maybe even disappears, the visibility of it disappears into those words. I think there's something to these two meetings specifically where people who are new and are coming that may not come to an executive committee where this is like on the agenda. I like the ad hoc part of it and, you know, the fact that there's all kinds of board members, new, longstanding and executive here is a good sign. At least through 2027,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that seems like a good way to.
We'll also make it mandatory for the, for that, you know, that initial orientation meeting, right, for new board
be-
members, to be a part of that initial transition, however you set it up.
Mm.
It just, instead of it being like, oh, well, we'll figure this out, right, I think there's, we don't know what that term limit thing is going to do over time, right? We don't, you know, and by 27, 28, there might be a few board members that term limit right away, and then the next one, it's like, all of a sudden, there's a massive 2029 will be here tomorrow. I mean, seriously.
Yes.
It will, okay.
That's true.
5 years has gone by since we were, you know, still at the, regular meetings over at Edward R. Murrow and.
Yeah, remember that was your.
Right,
Yep,
and in
remember.
5
Yep.
years, 5+ years, so 2029 is gonna be here very quickly. And we're gonna start seeing more turnover every single period. Because of term limits, and people moving, tiring, different reasons. I just think we're a big enough community, I'm gonna, our community board, just my feelings, that we should have, some kind of orientation transition, like a committee that has a certain set of rules, follow those rules.
I was gonna say, with the term limits, the board members, they exit and then they can come back the next go around? Is that
Yeah,
really
yeah.
how it's gonna work?
I don't remember if you have to take 1 year off or if you have to take a year off, a term
A
off.
term.
Well, that's a good question. Your turn.
So I don't know, but the answer is yes, you can come back.
There has to be an open seat.
Yeah.
Well, but here's the thing. I mean, some of you, not many, but a few of you might remember the time, we had almost no turnover on this board. In my earlier years here, there'd be, I think there may have been a couple years where there were no new members there. And then there were, you know, it was like a big year when there were 4. And now we went, you know, 3 years ago, I think there were 15 new members. And then this past year, there were 9, and that was the smallest number in the Reynoso administration was 9. When before that, it was a big number if it was 4. So, so I think we've got more of a term mix than we anticipated having when they first adopted that city charter amendment to term limit.
And that's probably why, being that most boards, they always kept the same people. It was harder to become a member of many board, and that's why the law came about.
Yeah.
They do it to have that, you can open it up.
But something is, man, because this has come up a couple of times, but just we sort of glossed over it. The composition of this committee isn't really set. It's
I'll
done.
get into that.
I think, okay, then I'll.
No, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I just
Because
wanted to
it-
bring up that, you know, I think, Ornella, I think, is willing to continue to co-chair, and Carl is willing to reappoint Ornella into co-chairing, but there would need to be another co-chair. And then one idea I had about composing the committee, if you decide you want it to continue, is to make sure that every standing committee has a representative, whether the co-chairs work out one of the co-chairs or they ask somebody who's on their committee to sort of be the representative. That way, like any of the transition committee best practices or rules or things that activities are then being expressed back to the standing committees, and work of the standing committees can kind of go, you know, be communicated into the transition committee.
Yeah, and I think it would be good for the orientation piece and the onboarding if there is a member from each standing committee that is knowledge about that specific area that could be shared to whoever is being onboarded at that
Right,
point.
because that could always help the new members as they
Select.
in their committee about, oh, you know, when I first got here, I was given a form. I was like, hey, fill out which committees you want to be on. Number them 1 through 6 in the order of preference. And I'm like, I have no idea what these committees do. I'm like, well, I think public safety is something I'd be interested in because I live in public safety. It's just like kind of like a second choice. I think it was like, but I had no idea. I don't know what these do. Then you find out when if you attend enough meetings, you kind
Yes.
of get an idea of what they do. But it's again, my orientation to the board was show up at the meeting. And then my next orientation was a board member that I knew from outside, who's like, yeah, just sit here and just, it'll get fun sometimes. You got a lucky night on an easy application. That have been.
That's fun.
Or more.
That's true.
You are so right.
That's
That's the same experience I had.
Like, so I think that,
Wait, your borough president orientations didn't
Oh.
situate you for your experience?
No. Really? No.
how many times I was there to take the oath? I went.
Brokers.
No, I never went. Yeah.
I think it's here and then.
Okay, just making sure I didn't miss an email, there has been no borough president
Right, I was
orientation,
like, you about to freak us out. It has not gone out.
and we haven't, okay, all right, that's it,
It's supposed to though, so
Yeah,
okay.
let's keep our eyes, okay?
yeah, and actually I was gonna say, so without the borough president orientation, you don't have any information to like get an idea of what committee, if people are coming in, maybe people are coming in.
I don't think the borough president orientation.
I think
does not give you enough. It's show up, tell you, welcome to the board, you take your oath, kind of.
Yeah, they're like,
absences and.
Yeah. Attendance.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yes, yeah, but not, nothing else. Nothing.
I think really, like we said at the new member orientation, just a deep dive into the website.
Yes.
Call us and we'll be here all summer if you want to chit chat. Take a look at some of the recorded meetings and browse the agendas of the various committees. And I think that sort of more experiential steep will
Agreed.
be
And
better
then
than.
even what they're doing tonight, like showing up to these meetings, like I've never seen one before. Like this is how you get exposed to how they run.
I love that because prior to COVID, there were no recorded meetings, right? Not for so you could actually see what happens and you can check out the
recorded, but.
not that way.
Oh, but we didn't have Zoom meetings,
No.
WebEx meetings.
No.
So those,
Not that
we had
they were-
audio recordings. They used to sit there with the
Yeah, audio.
headphones on trying to take them in and.
But now you can go to
Old
YouTube. So, but I remember, yes, that's how it was done, the audio recording.
Okay,
Yeah.
that,
Just real quick, I just want to say that through Zoom, there's a lot more opportunity for learning and participation when you were talking about underrepresented groups. It's like, when I was working mom, I did not have time for this. And imagine all the challenges in people's lives. And if I was a teenager, I probably wouldn't be into it. That's all. And Zoom helped. Just opened it up.
To the one last point, right? The things that we need to express to the members, besides for the committees, okay, are these public hearings? I don't think that, many new members understand what a VSA application is, or what a DOT application is, or what, right, or a special.
Can you put a pin in that? That's gonna come up when we talk about the board member manual.
Because that's very
we
important.
talked about it, yeah, we did talk about it at the more orientation that we have the lunch and learn on land use. That's a little bit of a reason.
But
But you're right.
I think that if there was this, transition committee and it's their job to take the new members, kind of rattle them in and say, hey, these are the things that are important. But yes, I'm sure you do a great job with the lunch and learn. I wasn't there because I don't remember. Maybe technically I am.
You are.
Well,
I promise he's not gonna shake you like that.
yeah, maybe that was your segue.
No, I mean, that's all right. That's like, oh, welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks. I find that true, not true, Alvin and Sean.
Yeah, so in regards to, so that we don't spend too much time here, because we in record time finished that last public hearing. I want to make sure I get y'all out here on time. I do want to, get a recommendation. We obviously have to bring it to the full board on Monday, but, in regards to, I think I hear the sentiments, but I do want to make sure I get everyone's voice in the room. Two things. The first is around whether or not we continue either as ad hoc versus resolve it into another committee. I think I hear the sentiments, but I do want to make sure that I'm being fair. So I think I'm going to do it in the affirmative. Can I? Yeah. All right. Can I tell me if I'm doing this right? Y'all ready? Okay. Can I have a motion to to recommend that we continue the ad hoc transition committee. No, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought it was permanent. I think I'm using.
No,
Let's continue the ad hoc first.
You have to continue it ad hoc until such a time
Yeah.
there's a bylaws review. So,
And then, okay.
so for now, an ad hoc committee until such time a bylaws review
Mhm.
is considered.
All right, let me say that again, y'all. Motion to recommend that we continue the transition committee as the ad hoc committee until bylaws are.
Until such time of
Such as bylaws
Make it
review
permanent.
to make it permanent.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second.
All right, I think anyone opposing? Great. Anyone
Very
abstaining?
unanimous.
Beautiful. And then anyone ineligible? Great. I think we're moving forward with that recommendation passed. Obviously, we have to bring it in front of the board on Monday. We'll share what was stated here. The second is around the composition. Do we need a recommendation for the composition, or we can just share that with the whole
I
group?
think that's a process of the board that should be reported out, and then, I'm regretting that we didn't put it on the committee preference form, but we'll just have to send a separate or work with the co-chairs of each committee or something like that. I'll
Yeah.
work that out with the appointing party, AKA Chair.
Yeah.
Cesar.
All right, beautiful. Okay, we kind of started talking about the second one, so I think we'll move through this a little faster. But the second agenda item is outreach, recruitment, and public members. So we kind of talked about like how we have underrepresentations in different areas. So we want to talk about how to reach out to any underrepresented pockets of our district and encouraging community members to become public members. So for those that are new, to become a public member, you just have to come to any standing committee meeting, at least one meeting, and after that, you can speak to the chair of that committee to request to become a public member. And what that means is that you're not a voting member in regards to being like you went through the application, you're part of the board, but you are a member of the public, and you will be now part of that committee as a public member. So that is, I think someone was sharing like there's ways to engage people before the application process where they're coming to meetings more frequently as public members before they even consider to like officially join the board as a whole. Yeah.
Very interesting because I've attended a lot of committee meetings in the past. Not a lot, but like, I don't know, 3-4 a year. And that was never brought up. So maybe in a committee meeting, just like a suggestion for the chairs to say like anyone who like actually signs up to speak too, which I've also done several times.
Mhm.
Hey, you seem like someone who likes to talk. Be a public member, and then because if that was I probably would have done that. I didn't know there was kind of like a gateway drug.
You know that mechanism
I
exists.
love that.
Between someone attending and then a full-on board member. And I mean, going back to like the 16 to 24-year-olds, the 2-year commitment is where I can imagine that it's a big stumbling block for them, because if you're going to college or if you're like 19 or something, you're going to be like they don't necessarily know where they're going to be for a 2-year stretch.
Yeah.
And I wish you would have told me last year you were looking for 24-year-olds. I missed it, but yeah, this might be a way for, especially for someone in that age group, to be like, we're not anticipating that you're going to stick around for 2 years. You might go somewhere else, but you could be a public member and see if you like it, and then later on, if you come back to live here or whatever.
Yeah, I know me and Eric have it a part of our agenda. It's at the bottom. We only state it if there is someone from the public, but what's been happening is when we are on the call and we act like we assess if there's anyone from the public, no one's there, so we don't even state it.
Yeah.
But I do think we can definitely share with all chairs of all the committees around making sure that is stated in all the meetings. But I think even before then, we need to increase our outreach to get people from the public to attend those standing committee meetings, to be able to even give them that as an option.
Yeah. Yeah, but point taken, it can be communicated out more regularly at committee meetings, at board meetings, and at our goings on about town.
Yeah.
My understanding, and I don't know if this has changed, but I know that when I first heard about community boards, it's amazing when I think of how long I lived in New York. But one of the things that was stipulated was that if you were interested in becoming a board member, you needed to show up at the meetings on a pretty regular basis for like a year before you were even putting an application.
Yeah, that's not.
And I know that, that was doing that pretty regularly.
Yeah, that is ideal.
Yeah.
But I know that in the application, I reviewed, I just submitted for a new term, and that wasn't even, correct me if I'm wrong, that wasn't like a stipulation anywhere.
Do you go never, sometimes?
Yeah.
Have you attended at least one meeting in the
Yeah.
last year, right? It was really the question.
Yeah.
I think that to your ways, it used to be the community boards were locked down, right? As we said earlier, like you could be, there were people on the board for life, and it was like the same 30, 35 members for the most extended period that to get into the community board and become one was like,
There are still some that are.
there are still some that are like that. That's
That
correct.
somehow managed to block out.
So that's part of this whole term limit. I think that the makeup of the psyche of people are changing as well, right, over time. People don't want to give that 30-year commitment, they get a person to commit to coming to board meetings for a year before they become a member, before they're eligible to become a member, that would be, I just don't see how that's gonna be rough.
I mean, it was, but yeah, I mean,
No, in the old days, you needed to do that, it was an initiation to get into that special club that you couldn't get in otherwise. But now that there's gonna be these turnover, and the law changed, it's designed around the fact that it should create more representation, it should create more diversity. And I don't know that it's gonna happen that people, to try to make that a requirement, I think is something that's going to.
Yeah, but it is sort of strange when somebody seems clear out of the blue, like why did you apply to take on a leadership role of something you've never experienced? And yet, there are very good board members among us who came to us, and the first experience with the community board was at the meeting after which they were appointed, like maybe an elected official asked them, and they said yes. And so it's not as predictive as it seems like it would be. And then, on the other end of that gamut is, people who served as public members of before becoming, things like.
That was Carl? He was.
Carl was a public member.
Well, the funny thing is, my journey
When he was
was
24.
Sean and I. Yeah. Actually, I don't look a day over 12.
You don't act a day over 12.
Well, that's true. Hey, I never made the mistake of confusing adulthood with the
15.
death
I'll give
of.
him 15.
Give me a hard 15. That's cool. I'll take that. I never confused being an adult with the death of my inner child. That's all I got to say. It's true. It's true. But the way that I got to the community board is funny. So Sean and I, we were both friends at the same CrossFit gym, and so one day, like many years ago, back in fall of 2016. We were just talking about local government stuff, and then she said, "Hey, I'm the district manager of the community board you live in." And I told her, "I think all those words are made up."
So talk around.
Like I really did. I said, "I think all those words are made up." And she said, "You're funny and wrong. Look it up." And so I did, and I went, "Oh, she's right. Like the community board exists. A district manager is real." So then I started going to as many board meetings as possible. Yes, like when they were at the Caton School or at Everard Murrow.
Yeah.
Right? So like I remember when they were at the Caton School too. So so then when the application period opened up, Sean's like, "Yeah, you should apply," right? But I agree with that. Up to that moment, I had no idea. So it just happened by chance that a friend, I wasn't friends with her because she was district manager. It just so happened.
You sure about that?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. My mind's eye knew I should be friends with her.
Never retire all this.
Yeah, exactly. Right, but it just so happened by chance that this happened, right? So that was my window into that world entirely.
But to Morty's point, it was back in the day when there weren't a lot of vacancies, and we had a mid-year vacancy, and I remember like calling Ingrid P. Lewis Martin, and we're like, can we get this person appointed before a meeting on Monday?
That's exactly how I got appointed. It was literally David Greenfield calling me up and saying, "There's a vacancy. It's not mine. Matthew Eugene's has a vacancy. He owes me a favor. I need you on the board." And the next thing I know, the next week I'm at a meeting. Literally.
I want to know what the other end of that favor was. Like, what were you working?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
Okay.
In regards to engagement, though, I think
And Erica,
that was a really. Oh yeah, I just want to stamp the idea. I noted it, making sure that we have standing committee chairs name that. But then I definitely want to put back out there, and Eric will come to you right after this. I want to put back out there, how do we engage more people from the public in those spaces so that we are able to, when we share that, actually get people to be public members. Eric, you,
Yeah, question. Carl's and Sean's CrossFit story. Maybe, I didn't get involved until around COVID. And Sean was telling me that you guys used to meet, and you're saying this, they used to rotate around the district for the meetings. And I'm wondering if there's a lot of logistics for that, and I don't know what that is, but I'm wondering if we're talking about engaging more people and we're engaging different communities, is there something worth revisiting about the community board moving monthly around the community?
I have no objection to it. I mean, the upside is, I think you just highlighted, the downside is sometimes people would come late to the meeting when it was on Marble and came to, I went all the way to the other place. I forgot it was here this month. And then the logistics aren't that hard. Schools are what became difficult because of the firewall around the technology. And so Mark Moss said it's really, really, really hard to get these meetings live streamed out of school buildings. If that's still true, then that's still true. OHEL wants to host us, and they've asked us to come down.
We had one.
The room's a little bit small, but you think it's too small? So I'll just,
I'm putting it out there as, I'm not saying that we should definitely.
Like travel around.
I think that there's something.
Back on you all, if you know a space that can accommodate us, bring it to our attention and we'll see if we can work with it.
I think my point is evident though, that rotating around the district automatically puts the board is in different home spaces, right? So it's not just the East Midwood Jewish Center and just Avenue H train stop that, you want to bring in more people, their home spaces matter. And I think having the board operate in all those spaces, I think it just lends ownership to, this is a community thing and it's not just these spaces.
I don't disagree where practical.
Yeah, I'm just putting it up.
I just wanted to say that I think it's.
no, go ahead. And then.
That we have to notify the communities at least that we're going to be hosting them. That way they're aware, so if we can get that out there.
That's actually what I was thinking was part of it is as you're rotating around that there's opportunities for outreach in ways that will become natural. It's like, well, we're in this place now. We better forward the message along. These community organizations are over there. Maybe we should.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that happens, but maybe just kind of uprooting things that feel.
I had this conversation with the precinct yesterday and told the NCOs from Sector David that I asked them to please move it down to the southern, and that's only one quadrant of our 2.9 square miles. And I think they need to move it around. So philosophically, I'm with you.
Yeah. Melissa?
I was just gonna say, I agree completely with that, and for exactly that reason, I think it's very important that we do, it's the outreach to communities who don't know about us, and just making it easier for more people to attend our meetings, getting our names there, and just for other purposes of the idea of doing outreach to people who aren't represented on the board. I think we need to remember that as well when we're talking about all knowing somebody who can replace us. And I think it's great that we all maybe have people who can, that we know who we can do personal outreach to, but we tend to hang out with a lot of people who are like ourselves. And I think the whole idea that I'm hearing at least is that we do want to do outreach to people who are strangers, but who will have maybe terms. And that's something I would just like to kind of keep in mind too.
Yeah. Just to add on about different outreaches, I mean, I don't know what everybody's background is in terms of work, their work, but I'll come on that view. And we do have different partners, so we could post on our social media. We have internship programs, which is 16 to 24 age group. And there are other board members that I have seen online who do run these programs as well. And I think they should be posting on social media and reaching out to their groups as well to be represented.
In regards to social media, we're okay with outreach. Yeah, I just want to make sure we're not.
Yeah, we're on social. The board has accounts too, so we could be doing it. But yes, and yeah, I know what you're asking because of the morning, don't represent.
Representing the board.
But I think that advocating for participation is different than taking a point of view on an
Yeah,
issue and then saying, oh, by the way, I'm a board member, as if it's an official position. But it is an official position of the board that we're trying to.
Or if
Attract
you
people.
posted, we all repost it on our.
It
Yeah,
would be, yeah.
yeah, that would be.
Probably when it comes to the youth
No, I don't.
conference, we usually.
Ma'am, it's a good question of board members present. So another way we could do outreach is there's always, there's more opportunities to participate in tabling events around town. And, you know, we don't do it a lot, partly because, you know, staff time is usurped during the week and, but if board members would want to step into those roles and like National Night Out is the, you know, we do that one and that's August 2nd, 5th. It's something, first Tuesday of August is on, but, and that's an obvious example and that's kind of an easy one, but I could do better if board members are willing to like passing along these opportunities of, and you know, do we want a table here? And if so, do we have a couple of board volunteers to do it? Because you just did one recently. Was it a fact?
Because she was out there and.
It should be August 12th.
And then I just,
Second Tuesday.
the flyers are there to tell us, and a lot of people came by. I think some people don't know. Yes, okay.
Just one quick comment about Eric's comment about moving the meetings around. I feel like I'm fighting to stay afloat with the existing. Tonight is here in person. Next Wednesday is 6:30 on Zoom. In my mind, as of 5:45 today, I was meeting on Zoom, and it was the transportation committee meeting.
The same thing.
Then it's the ad hoc meeting. It's in person and it's at the Avenue H stop. Is it in my calendar? Yes. Is it clearly laid out to me in the email beautifully? Yes. But I'm just fighting to stay afloat with maybe this will wear away. But for the meeting at the Midwood Jewish Center, I came here. I was texting someone like it looks like I know I've been in this building before. The gate was down, and then I had to take a lift over there, walking late. So like my vote, it's a beautiful sentiment, but with the rate that we have meetings and the fact that they're all evenings, which is my kryptonite time for just like getting out of the house alone, nobody hanging on to me as I run. I'm just like I guess opposed to it because of the fact that we just need to get here and get it done. If I'm like, wait, where is it and how do I get there? That just adds another layer to it. So I hope that's not too selfish, but for the cadence of the meetings that we're expected to attend and just getting to know, and then things like not having to wait half an hour for the figuring out the Wi-Fi password and someone can't get in and the building's locked and the custodian didn't know we were having the meeting there, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just unfortunately opposed to it.
I wonder if the middle ground is our board meetings, stand committee meetings keep the same cadence. So at Midwood Jewish Center here or WebEx. And then I wonder if we can be strategic around tabling across the district so that we're visible in that way. Would that be a good middle ground for that?
I think that sounds like a real good idea.
Yeah. Most standing committees are via WebEx.
Yes.
The ones in person, we're meeting in person when action is to be taken.
Yep.
And because we had the public hearing tonight, we were like, we might as well, let's piggy out the direct meeting on. But the other thing that could be done at different parts of the district is we're talking about sort of upping the social calendar for board members. And so hopefully you all received an invitation to King's Theater on the 18th.
No.
Heard about it.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
so bad this week. Okay, tomorrow, first thing, survey goes out, King's Theater invite goes out, but you can go ahead and mark your calendars now.
When's the actual date of it?
June 18th.
Thursday, June 18th, right?
No,
Wednesday,
June
June
18th.
It is June 18th. but-
Wednesday, June 18th.
Yes, you're right. 'cause Thursday.
7:00. Board members, special tour of the King's Theater led by King's Theater staff. It just so happens that that night also, the Church Avenue, Flatbush Avenue Bid Church, Flatbush Alliance is having, a family movie night, Men in Black is showing, so you can do one thing, both things. I'll send out the email tomorrow and you can RSVP. I'm only taking care of the tour. If you want to do the movie night, you just.
And it's just and the office tried, it's only board members, and so you can't do like a +1, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But we'll see how many board members respond.
That's true.
But, like other stuff like that, we're talking about, Carl's talking about doing some, walk and talks and.
Yeah, I want to walk and talk at the park some point during the summer or something. And heads up too, like at some point in the summer, I don't know when, I'm gonna walk the entire perimeter of the community district. Yeah, at some point in the summer. I don't know when. So whatever I do.
I won't walk it with you, but I'll bike it if you want.
All right, cool, man. As long as you stay in the protected bike lane.
That's huge.
Yeah, I know, but that's the point though, right? At some point I'll do it. I don't know when, but whenever I do.
Perimeter of 2.9 square.
Can we do region by region? I can get on board with the region by region.
Like a region by region?
Yeah.
Or is it gonna cheer if you go by?
It's not gonna be like Forrest Gump.
This is a shame.
Right, so we could do region by region one.
Yeah, region.
Oh.
Right, like, it's an idea, but yeah.
That would familiarize us with the different regions.
Keeping us moving for the sake of time, because it is 7:45, I'm gonna say 8:45. I've been leaving y'all, but it is 7:45. If you have any other ideas for outreach, I captured some of the things that were shared in this space. Please let me know. I'm gonna also echo this back on Monday to the whole board as well, because not everybody's here right now. But again, we're thinking through specifically, and Melissa, thank you for staffing this. How do we improve outreach for underrepresented areas, and then also for public members to participate with the board or to engage them more. The last thing, Sean did just a beautiful job holding it up, was
hard copies here for whoever wants.
Yes.
But
this is the board member handbook. So we're trying to think through what are some things that we want to get in there, but also see who's willing to help us quickly create some quick guides of what you've learned over the years. So we're naming some amazing things. And obviously not mandatory, but it would be greatly appreciated. And think of it as a welcome gift to anyone who's coming. We'll hand them this handbook. It's something they can reference with all the beautiful ideas. The one that's going around.
Paper anymore, it's a digital PDF, it's on the phone,
Yeah, we could send, no, it could be, we have it in PDF too. It's just some hard copies for people to look at right now. But this is the version from a few years ago. So
many years ago.
Many years ago.
For 15, Doris Ortiz was district manager, you'll see on the cover. So it's something that they used to do. We stopped doing it because we built out our website a little more robustly.
Yeah.
But whether we have, I think because somebody said, I think it may have even been when Liz raised, when I was a new board member, I didn't realize how abstentions work. I thought maybe we need to put some of these, resource guides together and, so that's an old copy, but it will give you an idea of things that have been in the past, and we won't go through tonight. That's the plan, right?
No, the plan is not to go through tonight.
So either
it just
copy or review it.
It is just to share with you guys, and if you are interested, you're like, ooh, I want to add this thing, and I'm an expert. No, you don't have to be an expert. It's quick, guys. But I'm passionate about this. I am passionate about zoning. I'm passionate about this, and I want to add it in there. Please let myself know. Reach out to the district office. We'd like to get this completed over the summer, so that when we come back in the fall, we can present it to the amazing new members.
And I don't know how people feel about AI, but what you just described is something that ChatGPT would be really good at. Here's an email chain, write a guide for telling people how to do this in the future, and then it could help you with that. Even if you just view it as making the first draft, and then you edit it.
Yep.
But that's something. If you're like, I really want to do this, I just don't have time to get everything that's going in here. Just consider that, and someone could even help you with that.
That was great because you don't have to create this beautiful formal version. You just send over your thoughts and ideas, and we can was named. We could literally use AI as a tool to make that happen for us. All right.
So now we're talking kind of about a subcommittee of the ad hoc committee to put together.
Now, I don't actually think we need a subcommittee.
It'd be taken on as a task, right?
Yeah. If they send the emails, I can literally throw them all into, and it'll be done in less than seconds, really quick. Yep. With that being said, Thank you guys for staying. Yeah, we did that before 8. That was my goal. I know I really appreciate you guys. Thank you. This was very fruitful conversation. I'm excited to, once the survey goes out and the data comes in and we have some fruitful conversation when we come back in fall around how to continue to make sure our board is representative of our district. So this meeting is adjourned.
Yes, we will. See you on Monday. Meet on Monday, folks. Remember that.
Adjourned for the summer.
Yeah, Monday we'll adjourn. For the summer.
But not before the.
Well, yes, we have, like, yeah, Monday is going to be our last general board meeting year. And then, yeah, we have our transportation committee meeting. So no, what I'll do then, and as somebody the chair of the board, I'll recap the public hearing and make the motion for that. And then after that, what I'll say is now we'll hear from you regarding the summer, the recap of transition.
I'll do my chair report, my committee report at that time.
I think so, just because if I waited, then I could be asking you to do the recap, but there's a motion that we need to take.
Okay.